Now, with the first one this week, we have the article actually, and I saw it from as making news around here in South Africa, which speaks about how the United Kingdom, the UK, replaces South Africa in terms of remittances sent to Zimbabwe. So the United Kingdom has actually usurped South Africa from that number one position as pertaining to the financial remittances, payments that are sent to Zimbabwe. So usually it used to be that South Africa was the one that actually was in the premium position as far as mobile transfers and also just electronic fund transfers and any sort of money that is sent to Zimbabwe. Now, for the first time ever, the United Kingdom has taken this over. So why am I covering this, and why is this such a big talking point, particularly pertaining to this ministry and the prophecies that have been given by the Lord? And remember what I stated in the one prophecy pertaining to Zimbabwe, and you can find that Zimbabwe prophecies playlist, was the fact that God said himself that he was going to cut off Zimbabwe's dependence on South Africa. So Zimbabwe depending on South Africa is going to be something that's going to come to an end, and he's already working that out. And the number one sign of that was the whole Eskom, meaning the electricity generating company supplying electricity to Zimbabwe. And that is also now going to become the major cutoff. So when news of that pretty much hits, that's when you know that God has really accomplished this, and there is a certain fate that is attached to that whole dependency on South Africa on Zimbabwe's side. So from Zimbabwe will pretty much reach this fate, which God hasn't really described to me in any detail as per se. And the only thing that he's given as a sign is that there's going to be the white people that are actually living in Zimbabwe, or some white Zimbabweans, will be leaving. Now, that is already a trend, that's something that has always happened, but when it's all of them leaving Zimbabwe, that'll be their fate sealed. So with that stated, the reason of the fact that the financial remittances, I'm so sorry for the bad English. Sometimes these things happen to me. This remittances having to be cut off from South Africa, and South Africa losing this premium position, is the fact that, South Africa in itself is having this whole rebuild. So in this rebuild, the economic contraction is a real thing here. So the Zimbabwean workers that were actually coming over to South Africa from Zimbabwe, a lot of these professionals who are there have had to now seek employment elsewhere, and that is in the United Kingdom. And right now, that has been the biggest taker. So that is one of the reasons why we're seeing the United Kingdom being number one as to them having these remittances sent over, meaning this mobile transfers. Because in Zimbabwe, as far as the unemployment there, I've been there, trust me. So no diss to them. It's quite deplorable as compared to even South Africa. So it's quite bad. And of course, having a very wicked government has been, tantamount in that situation. And quite honestly, because of the enablement by the ANC on this side, which is something I've discussed, having to be the only party really to actually work together with the Zimbabwean government in this instance, and especially that there was a lot of, as far as having to come to South Africa for help with basic things like, currency, like for example, because when Zimbabwe actually stopped printing out their own money, and because the Zimbabwean dollar went into worthless territory where it was like not even worth the paper that it was written on, quite literally. As far as getting access to any sort of currency that has any worth or any trade value, they've had to turn to South Africa. And the other thing is that Zimbabwean politicians own a lot of houses, especially out in Sandton and everything. That was something that I'm actually quite in the know of, because I know someone who was actually staying in one of the politicians or Zimbabwean politicians' houses over here, and this person is from Zimbabwe themselves, living illegally in South Africa. Just as an example, of course, I'm not dropping any names, or I'm not snitching or anything of the sort, but I'm just telling you that it's a real reality. And especially that, these people come here normally acting like they're celebrities online, but meanwhile, the reality is that they've become either concubines, so to speak, but that's not even the case yet. It's just a matter of having some sort of weird prostitution rings. And they have it, the Zimbabwean politicians know they can have that easy in terms of the enablement by the ANC. In the same way, how North Korea actually can still function as a nation, and it's, of course, way worse in term than even Zimbabwe is, that the CCP is the one that's actually financing and enabling the Korean dictator to be able to do whatever nonsense and the wickedness he's doing. And that's really, if you look at the heart of it, is the hate of Christianity in it. So if you're going to be a Christian going to North Korea, just trust me that you're going to end up in prison and being tortured. It's just as simple as that. The same thing that they have in common with the CCP. And in Zimbabwe, now they have strong sort of, people I've met there that actually have a true love for God. But unfortunately, the other thing is this, is that a lot of the churches and a lot of the stuff that they have there is mixed in with a lot of this so-called African worship of the dead, meaning this whole ancestor worship side of things, and also amalgamated with this whole worshipping or the infusion of witchcraft and all that. So you find that it's quite a thing, that side, as opposed to just being a crackdown on Christianity as per se. However, we all know the true living God as a liberator works to liberate his people. But with that, and with Zimbabwe's particular case, it's going to lead to, of course, an exodus, which is one thing. And just because I mentioned, like I said, that it's going to be an exodus of white people, doesn't mean it's only white people that are going to be leaving. It means that those that belong to him will also be leaving and also be escaping the fate that's going to befall Zimbabwe, which I don't know exactly why it's the case, but what also God made mention to the fact that Zimbabwe will not benefit from the rebuild that is going to be happening here in South Africa, which is South Africa's destiny, which is the embodiment of the body of Christ, is not going to go hand in hand with the way Zimbabwe currently is, or the shape of the nation as we know it. There's not going to be that whole bilateral sort of steady improvement, as in it's going to work at tandem with the improvements that are going to be happening here in South Africa. So yeah, that is just the way I got it. Please don't come to the comment section and crying and all that, because I've been noticing that there've been an uptick of new viewers and new people on the show, which are on the YouTube channel particularly, and I'm so grateful for that. But with that said, there's also been a lot of the bad, and that's been the one that's been outweighing most of the good, unfortunately, because a lot of people are very hurt by the stuff that I say, especially when it pertains to their political sort of fanfare or whatever they think is going to happen. But hey, listen, take it up to God. Like I said, hey, that's who I get it from. And if it's if it's respectful and everything, I've got no problem people trying to disagree and anything. I'm always happy to clarify anything. But essentially, I'm just saying, please comment and keep it respectful. If you're not, then I'm not going to answer you. It's just as simple as that. Anyway, I'm gonna go to the next update. Thank you for listening so far.